I'd like to call the order to the City of North Ridgeville Planning Commission meeting for July 11th, 2023. Everyone please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Ali is absent. Brotman,
Here.
Schumann,
Here.
Abens,
Here.
Smolik.
Here.
Members of the administration, Chief Building Official Furston,
Here.
Assistant Law Director Morgan,
Here.
Planning and Development Director Lieber,
Here.
City Engineer Evanson.
Here.
Did all the commission members have a chance to review the meeting minutes from our previous meeting on June 13th, 2023? Is there any corrections at this time? Hearing none, those minutes shall stand. I believe there was some administrative approvals and zoning certificates. Ms. Lieber, if you want to explain this?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, there's a zoning certificate issued for a new hair salon, Equinox Salon, in, I believe in the Nino's Plaza. That's new to North Ridgeville. And then also 83 in Chestnut Pub and Eatery is in the process of adding a cover over their rear patio, so to offer opportunity for outdoor seating even in inclement weather. So it's not adding onto the building per se, it's just covering the existing patio.
Okay, perfect. Master plan update. There was a meeting 6 was held on June 27th. It was a virtual meeting. It went over some of the market fundamentals for the new town center, which is approximately where we're sitting now. And some of the summary was there's definitely a market in North Ridgeville for residential for the town center. There's a market for restaurant and retail at this location as well. And there's a potential for some variety of mixed use, so possibly like a grocery store and restaurant combined with maybe a farmer's market. Some unique thoughts came out of that, and also a civic gathering space. Some of the other consensus from the previous meeting was that this is going to be a mixed use, approximately 40% residential, 30% retail, 20% civic, and 10% open space. That seems to be the consensus among the steering committee. Various town center diagrams were discussed, and then there was one motto or one point that came across is the steering committee felt we believe in a strong town center that has a community destination with higher intensity higher intensity of development, a mix of uses, and a vibrant and active public realm. So that was from all the steering committee. Now it's up to the general public. So there's actually going to be a pop-up party on July 20th right in front of City Hall here, and that's from 6 to 8. And basically they want the administration wants to know what the residents think of the town center. And there's going to be free pizza, ice creams, kid activities, some music, and prizes. So we're encouraging everybody to get the word out of what you want your town center to look like. And that, once again, is July 20th from 6 to 8. Okay, and that concludes the master plan update. New business, Madam Secretary, read the only application for tonight.
PPZ 2023-0204 Eagle Meadow, Sugar Ridge Road, and Bender Road. TPN 07-00-047-000-111. Proposal consists of final approval for the subdivision, which includes 41 single-family units and 26 cluster units for a total of 67 units. Property zoned R1 Residence District. Planning Commission granted preliminary approval on December 14th, 2021.
Okay. Is there a member in the audience who would like to discuss this project?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, please state your name and address for the record.
Richard Summers, 10585 Somerset Drive, Chardon, Ohio. We're here tonight asking for final plan approval. I have worked with the administration, the planning department, and the engineering department to, so to speak, make a few tweaks to the plat that were requested, and we're in total agreement with that. We also are in the process of entering into an agreement for payment in lieu of the sidewalk required along Sugar Ridge since there's likely a project coming up on that. So there's no reason to put the sidewalk in and tear it out later. A few other notes, I did get an email, I believe that came from Mr. Avens about the HOA restrictions and your concern about turning that over to the homeowners. Once the homeowners association is turned over, that we are done with our responsibility. And a few points, typically a homeowners association isn't turned over until Ohio law is 75%. Sometimes it's closer to 100% of the homes are sold. So that would be approximately a 2-year period. I also need to point out that there will be a maintenance bond in effect for 3 years. And that storm sewer and retention basins are part of that maintenance bond. I think the language is in there just to make it clear that once it is turned over and accepted, that the homeowners association understands that they will be responsible for the maintenance of those ponds and the storm sewers that are not in the right of way. We're willing to change these HOA documents to indicate that it would be a minimum of 3 years from the filing of the plat, if that would make the city more comfortable in this commission.
Just so you know where I'm coming from, my HOA, we got stuck with our pond in a $40,000 bill to correct some of the problems that the contractor didn't take care of.
I understand again.
And that's only a 50 home HOA, so $40,000
Was that a result of a original construction deficiency?
apparently because EPA got involved and said it didn't meet the standards, so we had to change it to the EPA standards.
Well, as you know, this one is approved by both the city and the EPA, and our SWIP plan, our Stormwater Prevention Plan, everything was approved. We will change it to put that it'd be a minimum of 3 years from when the HOA.
That sounds fair.
Typically, this is filed just prior to the plat, so it runs with the land.
That sounds fair.
And I'd be glad to answer any other questions the board may have.
Yeah, commission members, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So we got a planning review it was dated the 29th of June, and then there were some additional updates that we received recently, actually as of today. So I just want to go through these, if that's okay, and we
Great.
can, some of these you may have already taken care of, I don't know. I understand you took care of the HOA documents have been submitted, so that's one. The final plat, including all the details, is required by the chief building official. Has that been submitted, the final plat?
No, and I'd ask that we can submit it this week. I met with, I think, Christine last Friday. We had another talk today. There were some last-minute changes that I just couldn't get done for tonight.
I think what we'll want to do is put it in as a recommendation to council as part of our approval, correct?
Yeah, that we could definitely, if the commission wants, we could definitely do that as a condition, correct?
Okay. And
We
then
appreciate
the other thing was the landscape plan to be updated, include how the common open spaces areas will be treated. So topsoil, depth, lawn mix, et cetera. Just we want to ensure that the final condition has a finished appearance. So we'll put that in as,
That'd be good. And
Okay.
I would note that to file the plat, we will be putting up what's called a performance bond, which
course.
guarantees that we'll make these completions, and that landscape plan is on that performance bond.
okay,
We've also made a few changes. We're gonna tweak the plantings up at Sugar Ridge, and Bender
right.
to allow for future construction of a possible interchange. So we've agreed to move that back, make those changes again so it's not getting torn out in a year or two.
So there was a question about the proposed entrance sign that was, planning asked you to move that back 10 feet from the right-of-way as required by our zoning code.
I have no issue with that.
Okay, we're gonna ask you to do that too. We'll put that in. And then we'll also put in about the sidewalk, just to make sure that that is dealt with. And then the 3-year minimum on the water retention that the councilman is interested in. Let me keep going.
Go ahead.
In addition to those recommendations, we got some other advice from planning to modify the T turnaround at the end of Chandler Way in accordance with the city engineer's recommendations.
We have agreed to that, and we'll be changing the plat as
Okay,
recommended by engineering.
we'll put that in with our recommendation also. To modify the landscaping plan nearest the Bender Sugar Ridge intersection to count, you've already mentioned that you guys have started working on that for the right-of-way for the future roundabout. And then require the developer to conduct a walkthrough with the HOA representatives prior to transfer of the common areas. Is that in any of the legal at this point, or is that something we have to add as a?
I'll take this one. Rick, I don't think we talked about this prior to today, but some situations that we've had with other developers where we run into residents or board members of the HOA not really completely understanding what their obligations are as far as maintenance. So I was going to request if you could, either a member of Summers Development, or if you plan on engaging with a management company, usually they're more well-versed in the maintenance requirements of the HOA, either a party from them or a party from your company. Do kind of like a walkthrough, an on-site walkthrough with a board member of the HOA, just to ensure that they are quite familiar with their obligations, especially the stormwater management.
We have no issues with that. We
I didn't
typically,
think you did.
prior to a turnover, we typically have what we call a town hall meeting. We invite everybody there, we make a presentation, and then we can do a site walkthrough too.
Good.
I guess I want to jump in on that. I think that's more a administrative policy thing. So I don't think the commission has a right to interfere with administration policy. So I'm going to probably recommend we strike that as a condition.
Okay.
Because yeah, like I said, that's more administrative than, I don't really think it would be fair to tie it in at this point in time. I don't know if anybody else has any feeling on that. Okay,
Mr. Chair, if I would.
go ahead.
Section 29 of the developer's agreement does ensure that the developer is obligated to turn over all HOA documents, and it spells it out accordingly, the stormwater management and all drainage easements. So although it does say that the documents are necessary to be provided to the HOA, I just was recommending that a potential walkthrough could be done.
Well, I think it's a great idea, and it sounds like it's required by the city engineer, but I just don't think that this commission could put a condition on your plat for that. That's
Okay.
my point. I mean, if administratively, in order for you to close out the project and they want to have this walkthrough, so be it. But yeah, I'm just trying to keep planning commission stuff separated from administration. I'm not sure if the law director wants to chime in.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We're talking about doing this 3 years out.
Correct.
So it would be very difficult for us to keep track of it. There's no ordinance specifically requiring that, but he's agreeing to do it, and it sounds like it's part of the plans that you usually do. Now, you talked about a meeting
Correct.
where you let them know what to expect and what the documents say. Is that correct?
Correct. Under Ohio law, HOA law, you have to, again, the 75% rule, and then you have to turn it over, and they have to elect a board, at which time we formally turn it over. Prior to that board election, well, we need the board, and then we'll do the site inspection. And it'd probably be a good idea to have somebody from engineering there too, which I don't have a problem with.
That's not a bad idea either. But I think it's a good idea to do, absolutely. require it as a condition of approval might be unnecessary at this point.
Okay. Is there any other further commission members have any questions or comments? I'm gonna open it up, go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify and make sure, I believe I see it in the drawings, but there is mounding going to be occurring along Bender and Sugar Ridge?
It's pretty much roughed in and been seeded.
Okay.
Obviously, the plantings aren't done, but the mounding is to the grade plan at this time.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Is there any questions or comments from the general public? If there is, please go to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Mike Babbitt at 38601 Sugar Ridge Road. Is there actually a final plat? Is this the same paperwork that was presented back in December of 2021, or is there?
So what was presented in 2021 was the development plan
Yep.
and a preliminary, I think there was a preliminary plat, and it's my understanding, really nothing has changed on it.
So at that point, we had no setback, actual documentation. There were no dotted lines. There was issues with 35 versus 30 foot. There were variances, and so, and at that time was an incomplete drawing. So has it not been revised at all since that date? Because I was hoping to see.
Well, the stuff that has been submitted is commission. I'm not sure if there's other stuff that's been submitted to administration. But like we've indicated previously that the building commissioner has some concerns on this plat as far as setbacks. So one of the potential conditions that we're gonna place on this is that all those setbacks be placed on this plat. They don't necessarily have to be, they still have to, I mean, it just makes their job administratively easier if it's all in one place, but still, they have to follow all the setbacks
I get
that are
that.
established, unless,
So in Paul's
previously-
words, he stated that it appeared the plans were incomplete. He asked if it would be better to wait and get updated plans, as this was something that would be administratively done at a later time and not be concern of this commission. He asked that if it was incomplete, by his own admission, he thought that there were minor changes, but wanted to know if they should go ahead and vote on it. So here we are, a year and 6 months later, and we don't have the setbacks as indicated on the drawing. I know that he said he would do that, but he admitted it from the drawing, and isn't the drawing really what says whether it can be done from an engineering standpoint? So I'm just curious why the drawings haven't been up, why the landscape plan isn't in there, why
it is in there.
it is? Can we see it?
But, all right, so what we're here tonight is the final plat, which is a recorded document indicating basically parcels, easements. Just for convenience, the
Okay.
plat has the setbacks placed. Okay, the setbacks don't get recorded by the
Okay,
county.
so there's, very good, that was not.
So that's not,
Awesome.
the setback is not a requirement for the recording purposes of this subdivision. It's just for convenience, so when houses are built, everything's in one location
Right.
so that they know where the setbacks are.
I understand that, but we're the general public, and this is our opportunity to see what the plans are of what's gonna be permanently placed across the street from us, and it's our only chance to talk with somebody in dialogue about that process, because at a council meeting, we have 3 minutes and there is no dialogue. So this is our opportunity.
So,
Are you telling me that this opportunity does not exist? That
no,
we're just-
you have this opportunity. Remember, this is just a recommending body. Then once we
Right.
make a recommendation, you still go forth to city council.
Right,
And then eventually, this plat is gonna be a recorded document. It's gonna be public record, which will be available, I assume, through, their GI, or whatever, through somehow the city of North Ridgeville. I think you have access for the public to look at these documents, don't you?
The county does.
Asking me,
Or, oh yeah, like Lorraine County does. Yes, you're right. Lorraine County
the
does,
auditor
so,
has those.
correct.
And this won't get recorded unless all the requirements are taken care of.
Mr. Chairman.
okay, so
There are, we just went over 7 conditions.
Yep.
I hope some of those might have been things that were
yeah, you
interesting.
didn't go over the 35 versus 30-foot setback, which is actually a variance.
Okay.
So you didn't
Did-
go over that, and that was not on the drawing, and
But that was previously approved with the development plan, the first meeting in 2021.
well, it was recommended to council, not approved. Right? I mean, that was a recommendation. You had two two recommendations on two sublots, 19 and 44, for 15-foot setbacks. But Guy said that you could allow a 30-foot, not a 35-foot setback of the other cluster units, but it was not on the drawing. So at that point, it was incomplete drawing. I don't believe you made a judgment ruling on that, whether or not, because it wasn't on the drawing, so you couldn't see where that it was actually a dotted line, and I have it all in transcript here, if you want me to read it, but
No, I mean,
I'm just
we have
making-
we have the meeting minutes as well from 2021.
Right.
I was there. Believe me.
yeah, I know.
I remember.
I know.
But as far as all that,
So the drawings aren't, they still don't have the setbacks. So
as far-
really, we
no,
don't-
there's no setbacks, but they still have to follow
Okay.
that meeting minutes that are established to make sure the setbacks are there.
All right, so what's going on with the sidewalk? The sidewalk's now not going in because of,
There's future development that's going in. What I mean,
which is,
I'll let the city engineer, because I know they submitted
Sure, I'll
for a
take this
grant on this.
We are requiring Mr. Summers' development group to do sidewalks down Bender, so from the intersection of Sugar all the way to the property line on the north side, there will be sidewalk along the west side that abuts the development. But we asked Mr. Summers to do an in lieu fee, which we are currently working on through council to get the sidewalk ordinance revised to include an in lieu fee when a hardship or a request of the engineering department is made to hold off. Either there's a hardship that they can't perform the sidewalk, whether it's excessive grading or excessive drainage improvements that would need to be made to fill in that, or at the request of engineering, because future improvements are being made, they could do the in lieu fee as an alternate. And so we have done a preliminary study for the Sugar Ridge corridor. Obviously, there's some much needed improvements. I'm sure you are aware that the roadway is in need of maintenance rehabilitation, and they're also looking at some aging infrastructure or aging utility infrastructure down that corridor. So we do have some capital improvements that will be coming up in the upcoming years, and I would hate to put in the sidewalk that would that would need to be relocated or removed to do these improvements. So I think it's a good alternative to provide the in lieu fee instead of actually installing the sidewalk along Sugar.
so then the city would actually install the sidewalk at a later date?
Our improvements will include, we're looking at some shared use paths or sidewalks, so.
Okay, because that was part of what Mr. Summers had indicated was potentially walking paths, meandering walking paths, rather than sidewalks. So is it a sidewalk then? Is there a picture of the sidewalk on Bender? Do you have
The
that?
sidewalk on Bender is not meandering. The proposal was
Is there
just,
a,
I believe there's a sidewalk exhibit.
For Bender?
I was?
Yeah.
Vendor? I'm sorry.
There.
There we go.
okay. All right.
The layout isn't meandering, it's just based on our typical section, 1 foot off the right of way.
Is that what that you want to do, is just that type of sidewalk, not a walking path down there?
I'm not sure that, may I speak?
Go ahead and speak. Yes.
I'm not sure, the city requirement is 5-foot wide sidewalks. I don't know what the difference is between a trail and a sidewalk. Typically, a trail is stone or a hard, loose surface. And the city ordinance specifically states it has to be a 5-foot sidewalk with picture frame. It's very detailed. So we really don't have a choice. I don't know what the difference is between trail and sidewalk.
There was, in the original development plan, there was no discussion of a trail. I think if the condition was a sidewalk, which you're correct. It would be a 5 or 4 foot wide sidewalk, right?
I believe we're at 5.
Is it 5?
Right.
The requirement, actually, Mr. Summers, is a 4 foot minimum requirement, so.
So from page 4 of the meeting minutes from the last meeting in December of 2021, Mr. Summers advised, as part of their requirements are to heavily buffer along both roadways. He explained that they would be submitting a detailed landscape plan with the walking paths and all plantings. He advised that they were planning on that being a priority for the development.
But you'd have
So
to
there
go-
was discussion about the walking paths.
we're here for
I'm-
final, well, I'm just telling you,
it's-
we're here for final plat. All that,
Well, that's part
we
of the
can't,
final.
we can't go back on the development
We're-
plan that
we're
we've
not-
already had a meeting on and established conditions.
We're not going back, though. This
Right.
is,
I mean, it's, okay,
I think your words were whatever the commission would like us to do, 3 times are in this document of the minutes.
I think if you read the final approval and motion, it says sidewalks on Bender and Sugar Ridge. And that's how it's worded, the last paragraph of that document, of the meeting minutes. Whenever the motion was made, that there would be sidewalks on Bender, which we totally agree with, and that's good.
And also said there wouldn't be a T, but now there's a T.
no,
No,
the
that-
discussion was that the turnaround would be handled administratively. That was what the condition was.
Okay.
Is there any other questions or comments?
Yes, so, since that sidewalk, it is on the property that you currently own, correct? That sidewalk that's going in? So I do have a question about the cutting of the grass. So the grass, you know, we had talked about you being an out-of-town builder. You said you weren't, you're a hometown builder, but the grass has not been cut on that property all the way around. The city has been cutting it, great job for the city, but the city can't cut all of it because it's rutted up, because they took their Bobcat machine all the way around in the wintertime, transferring materials around instead of going through the mud. So I did put in 3 complaints to the city, to the building department, about the grass not being cut. The grass is yet to be cut. So can we at least expect the grass to be cut?
Yes.
Could, I mean, could you please state in the microphone so that way we know?
We'll make arrangements to get it brush hogged in the next week or so.
Well, it's not only this time,
Well,
continual,
obviously,
continual
once-
maintenance.
Yes, once it's, what's out there now is called temporary seeding, which is required by the EPA for soil and water regulations to prevent runoff. We will get it mowed right away and keep it mowed, especially after we invest all this money in landscaping. It will be mowed and maintained on an ongoing basis.
Okay,
that-
thank you.
Okay?
And I'm not talking about the mounds, I'm talking about from the road to the silt fence. So it's from the road to the silt fence. There's about 20 feet there that's not mowed currently. It was mowed by the city all these years because the farmer owned it. When the city didn't mow it, we mowed it. Now that it's owned by a developer, he should be mowing it. It's not city property, correct? I mean, it's-
Correct.
your people shouldn't be mowing that. Also, the dust, I've had complained 3 times about the dust. It's not bad all the time, it's only bad when there's a wind coming from the north. You have haul roads where you're moving equipment around, you have the big loaders, the big movers, and the dust was really bad. I've complained 3 times about the dust, only when there's a northerly wind. I've had to power wash my house a number of times. Other people here, I'm sure, have had to do the same exact thing. There has not been a water truck on site until Fabrizi got there to put in the concrete, and they have a water truck on site, and that's only been the last 2 weeks. So can we please have the dust controlled from the site, at least when it's blowing from the north to the south on the houses? And the last thing is the bump in the road. So the bump in the road, I get it, you had to saw cut the road. The saw cut pieces are on your property, on the east side of Bender, which I don't think you own. The coal patch, which is about 2 yards left, is on the east side of the property, which you don't own, under a tarp, which the mowing guys from the city can't mow it. They can't mow where you had your gravel pile, which is not on your property. And so the bump, you have all the coal patch there, you have a rolling machine, can somebody please put it down and roll it? You took an excavator across to put the cement blocks where all the manholes are for the sewer, and you ruined the coal patch job you did. Please repair it. We drive down that road every day now. It's got higher traffic because of the closure of Race Road, and we would really appreciate if you would just do a little bit of housekeeping on the site. Grass cutting, the dust, and please repair the road. Please put the coal patch down so we don't have to slow down to 1 mile an hour to go through there.
I guess questions and comments in regards to construction, that could be forwarded directly to
Well,
the
this is
Department
our
of
only
Engineering.
chance to speak, and he's here, so sorry to have.
Before I leave,
There you go.
call me anytime, we respond very promptly. And the permanent patch in the road will be done in 2 weeks.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Do respond with my cell number.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Is there any other questions or comments from the general public? Is there any questions or comments from the administration?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to give one update. I know in my report I talked about the study that was conducted of Sugar Ridge in 2022 that was completed, and then subsequently the city applied for funding through NOACA, both for rehab, really for a portion between Bender and then heading east towards, what's the, Waterbury Boulevard? And then also a separate CMAQ application more recently to NOACA for a Sugar Bender roundabout. So we understand that both of those projects are moving on to the next step. So they've been recommended by whatever committees did a preliminary look, or they've been recommended by our U.S. and Senator and U.S. Rep for that federal earmark as well. So we have hope that if the process continues, that we'll obtain funding for those projects. So it makes sense for the sidewalk, I think, that fee in lieu of to be collected, because there is definitely some momentum for these projects on Sugar Ridge.
Well, that's good news. Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments from the administration? All right, is there any further questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none, at this time, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we recommend with the following 7 conditions. Let me go through these.
Yes, for the record.
Yeah, for the record. Okay. The final plat shall include all details as required by the chief building official. The landscape plan shall be updated to include a note of how the common open spaces will be treated, topsoil depth, lawn mix, etc., to ensure that the final condition has a finished appearance. Pardon me. The proposed entrance sign shall be set back a minimum of 10 feet from the right-of-way as required by the zoning code. I think we're going to want to still leave in that should be acceptable to the commission in lieu of construction, the Sugar Ridge Road sidewalk, that the city would accept a fee in lieu of payment in the amount equivalent to construction, specifically providing for future connectivity along this property. That the plan will be modified. They'll modify the T turnaround at the end of Chandler Way in accordance with the city engineer's recommendations, and also to modify the landscape placement nearest Bender Sugar Ridge intersection to account for the future roundabout. I think I got it all.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Okay, Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Grotman,
Yes.
Schuman,
Yes.
Avens,
Yes.
Smolik.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. All right, I believe that concludes the Planning Commission meeting for July